My wife laughed when I lost my job. I didn't tell her I'd already sold my patent. She laughed the way people laugh when they think reality just proved them right. Not nervous, not surprised, not awkward. A clean, confident laugh, sharp enough to sting. We were standing in the kitchen, sunlight cutting through the blinds and laying stripes across the marble countertop she'd insisted was investment grade. I set the cardboard box down slowly. Inside were the last pieces of my old life, a company mug, a framed photo of us smiling 3 years ago, and a stress ball shaped like a rocket I'd never actually used. Well, she said, folding her arms, don't tell me. They finally let you go. It was an acquisition, I replied. They restructured. I got severance. She shook her head, then laughed again. Louder this time. Of course they did. Adrian, I always knew you'd fail. The words landed cleanly, like she'd practiced them. No hesitation, no regret. She walked past me and opened the fridge, staring inside like disappointment might be hiding behind the almond milk. You're just not built for the rooms I walk into, she added casually, as if she were stating a fact, not dismantling a marriage. I didn't argue, I didn't defend myself. I just stood there and watched her talk herself into certainty. What she didn't know, what sat quietly locked in my desk drawer, was that 3 days earlier I had signed papers in a glass conference room downtown. Lawyers on both sides, a tax strategist, a corporate rep who kept calling my work transformational. The number on the contract didn't feel real, even when I read it out loud. $167 million. The patent I'd built quietly over years was gone. Sold, structured, protected, and I hadn't told her. Not because I was afraid, because I wanted to see who she was when she thought I was nothing. That night she came home late, smelled like expensive perfume that wasn't her usual. She scrolled on her phone in bed without touching me, her breathing slow and even like the day's disappointment had already been filed away. I stared at the ceiling and thought about the first night we met, at a rooftop party where she laughed differently. Back then her laugh felt warm. Now it felt like judgment. Over the next few weeks, she stopped pretending. Late nights became routine. Client dinners, she said. Firm events. Her wardrobe shifted. Her phone never left her hand. When it buzzed, she angled the screen away without thinking. I didn't accuse her. I didn't snoop. I observed. Because when someone believes you're weak, they stop being careful. The proof came quietly. Her laptop was open on the dining table while she showered. A notification popped up in the corner of the screen. Dinner was perfect. Same time next week? From a contact saved as Evan M. No last name, no explanation, just familiarity. I sat down and opened the thread. Not because I wanted to torture myself, but because I needed clarity. The messages weren't dramatic. That was the worst part. They were casual, comfortable. Like this had been going on long enough to stop being exciting. And then I saw the line that froze everything inside me. He has no idea. He's not built for the rooms I'm in. She'd said it to him too. I closed the laptop exactly as it was. No confrontation, no outburst. I went to my desk, unlocked the drawer, and pulled out the folder she didn't know existed. The patent documents, the trust paperwork, the clause my attorney had insisted on drafting months earlier just in case. A mutual waiver clause so tight it bordered on cruel. No future claims, no reopening, no exceptions. That night, she kissed my cheek and asked if I was okay. I smiled and said I was fine. And in that moment, I decided I wasn't going to stop her. I was going to let her choose. I became easier, more agreeable. I encouraged her late nights, told her she deserved more, let her believe she was upgrading while I quietly prepared the landing. She filed for divorce exactly when I expected. Aggressive demands, alimony, the house, the car, and a story about financial instability. I agreed to everything. She smiled like she'd won. What she didn't realize was that the trap didn't look like revenge. It looked like cooperation. The divorce finalized on a Wednesday, which felt appropriate. Nothing dramatic about it. No rainstorm, no shouting, no slammed doors. Just a signature, a clerk who didn't care, and the quiet click of a pen ending a marriage that had already been dead for months. She didn't look at me when she signed. She looked relieved, like someone closing a browser tab that had been slowing down their computer. I signed last, took my time, not because I was hesitating, but because I wanted to remember the feeling, the strange calm of knowing that whatever came next would be mine alone. No more performances, No more walking on conversational landmines. No more wondering if the person across from me was evaluating me like a resume. She walked out first. Her heels echoed once, twice, and then were gone. No goodbye, no last glance. Just absence. That night, I packed 2 suitcases. I didn't take much. Clothes, my laptop, a box of notebooks I'd been filling for years with half-finished ideas and diagrams that only made sense to me. I left behind the furniture we'd chosen together, the art she loved because someone else had told her it was tasteful, the kitchen gadgets we never used. None of it mattered. The apartment above the bakery was small, but it had windows that faced east. Every morning, sunlight came in early, honest and unfiltered. No curtains thick enough to hide behind. The floors creaked. The pipes complained. It felt real. I slept better there than I had in years. For the first 2 weeks, I did nothing. No interviews, no announcements, no dramatic reinvention. I woke up. I walked. I cooked simple meals, I thought. For the first time since I'd gotten married, my thoughts weren't interrupted by someone else's expectations. Then the calls started. At first, they were polite, curious, casual. "We heard you might have something interesting. Someone mentioned you were working on a proprietary system. We'd love to explore a conversation." I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I listened. I took notes. I waited. People think patience is passive. It's not. It's strategic silence. The negotiations took longer than anyone expected. Not because I was indecisive, but because I was careful. Every offer came with strings: licensing instead of acquisition, partial ownership, future consulting obligations. I declined them all. I wasn't selling my time. I was selling an idea, clean and final. When the final number was agreed on, I read it 3 times. Not because I didn't understand it, but because my brain kept trying to protect me from believing it. $167 million is not a number your mind absorbs easily. It doesn't feel real. It feels theoretical, like a concept in a textbook you assume you'll never actually use. I signed. The lawyers shook hands. Someone congratulated me. I nodded. Then I walked out alone. I didn't celebrate. I didn't call anyone. I walked down to the water and stood there until the sun went down and the city lights came on. I wasn't happy. I wasn't sad. I was empty in the best possible way, like a cup that had finally been rinsed clean. The money moved quietly. No headlines, no announcements, no sudden lifestyle changes. On paper, I was still a recently divorced engineer between jobs. That anonymity was priceless. 3 weeks later, I ran into a mutual friend at a grocery store. He hesitated when he saw me, asked how I was holding up, said my ex seemed to be doing really well. New circles, new opportunities. He said it like it was supposed to hurt. "It's good she's happy," I said, and meant it. The rumors didn't start until later. It began with small things. Me not panicking about money, me turning down job offers without explanation, me looking fine. People expect grief to follow divorce. They expect bitterness, desperation. When those don't appear, curiosity fills the gap. Then came the Instagram stories. Quotes about betrayal, about truth surfacing, about karma. None of them named me. They didn't have to. Everyone knew who they were for. When the legal motion arrived, I wasn't surprised. I'd been expecting it. People who believe they made a bad deal rarely accept responsibility. They look for loopholes, someone to blame, a way to rewrite history so they can still be right. Reading the filing was almost impressive. The confidence, the assumptions, the absolute belief that the future should retroactively obey her expectations. The courtroom was quiet when the judge ruled. Final, clean, no drama. The sound her lawyer made when he exhaled told me everything I needed to know. Outside, when she finally spoke to me, her voice was smaller than I remembered. Less polished, less certain. She asked why I hadn't told her, why I'd let her make a mistake. I didn't answer right away. Not because I needed time, but because some truths deserve space before they're spoken. "You didn't ask," I said, "and when you stopped believing in me, I stopped needing your approval." She nodded like she understood. She didn't. A month later, she called, said she'd been thinking, said she'd been wrong, said she missed me. Not the marriage, me. I told her I wished her well and hung up. That was the last time we spoke. Life after that settled into something quieter, more intentional. I built a small team, people I trusted, People who cared about the work, not the optics. We built things slowly, carefully, no hype, no press releases, just progress. Sometimes late at night, I think about the version of myself who stood on that rooftop years ago, staring at a woman who seemed like the future. I don't hate him. I respect him. He believed, he tried, he loved without hedging. But I also know something now that he didn't. Love isn't proven when things are easy. It's revealed when the outcome is uncertain, and money doesn't change people. It just removes the consequences that kept their masks in place. When people ask if I feel like I won, I tell them no. Winning implies competition. This wasn't a game, it was a lesson. I didn't leave with revenge. I left with clarity. And that's worth more than anything she ever wanted from me. The strange thing about closure is that it doesn't announce itself. There's no moment where the universe taps you on the shoulder and says, "That's it, you're done now." It sneaks up on you in ordinary moments when you realize that something that used to hurt doesn't even register anymore. That happened to me on a random Tuesday morning, standing in line at the same bakery downstairs, listening to two people argue about whether sourdough was overrated. I caught my reflection in the glass display, messy hair, worn jacket, coffee in hand, and I realized I hadn't thought about her in days. Not in anger, not in nostalgia, not even in that dull ache that lingers after something important ends. She had finally become a memory instead of a presence. Money didn't change that. If anything, it made the quiet louder. When you don't have to worry about survival, your mind stops distracting itself with noise. You start confronting things you'd buried. Why you stayed as long as you did. Why you ignored the early signs. Why being chosen had felt more important than being respected. Those questions don't disappear just because your bank account adds a few zeros. They get sharper. People around me started changing, though. Not dramatically at first. Subtle shifts. Invitations that felt more strategic than friendly. Compliments wrapped in curiosity. The same people who used to talk over me suddenly listened very carefully. It was fascinating in a depressing way, watching how quickly perception rewrites reality. I hadn't become smarter overnight. I hadn't become kinder. I'd just become valuable in a way they understood. I kept my life deliberately small. Same apartment, same routine, same coffee shop, same walks. It grounded me, reminded me that peace isn't something you buy, it's something you protect. I didn't upgrade my car, didn't move to a glass tower downtown, didn't post inspirational quotes about success. Silence became my luxury. Then inevitably, someone leaked it. It wasn't a headline, not at first. It was a whisper that moved faster than any press release ever could. Someone knew someone who'd seen paperwork. Someone else had heard a number. By the time it reached me, the story had already grown a personality of its own. I was suddenly mysterious, calculated, cold, depending on who was telling it. That's when she reached out again, this time not directly, through a mutual contact, a casual message disguised as concern. "She just wants to talk," they said. "No expectations." That phrase always means the opposite. I didn't respond. A week later, the message came straight from her, longer, more careful. She talked about growth, about reflection, about how divorce changes people. She didn't mention money. She didn't mention court. She mentioned memories, the rooftop, the early days, the version of us that existed before ambition turned into a measuring stick. I read it once, then deleted it. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. There are conversations that only reopen doors you worked hard to close. And some people don't want resolution, they want revision. They want to rewrite the ending so they don't have to sit with the consequences of their choices. I wasn't angry anymore. That surprised me. I thought anger would be the thing that kept me moving forward, the fuel that justified everything. But anger burns fast and leaves residue. What replaced it was something quieter and far more stable. Self-respect. The lawsuit ended officially a month later when the judge awarded legal fees against her. That part barely registered. It wasn't victory, it was punctuation, a period at the end of a sentence that had already said everything it needed to say. I sent one letter, short, handwritten, no return address, no accusation, just to thank you for leaving when she did, because staying longer would have cost me more than money ever could. I don't know if she understood it. I don't need her to. Work became meaningful again, not as a distraction, but as expression. Building things without someone standing behind me, calculating whether they were impressive enough. Hiring people based on integrity instead of image. Saying no to investors who cared more about control than creation. For the first time, success felt aligned instead of performative. Occasionally, someone would ask if I'd ever loved her. That question used to bother me. It felt like a trap, like admitting love somehow invalidated everything that came after. Now I answer honestly, yes, I loved her, deeply, and that doesn't make me foolish. It makes me human. Love doesn't fail because it wasn't real. It fails because it wasn't mutual in the ways that matter. The last time I saw her was accidental, a conference lobby. She didn't recognize me at first. I'd lost weight, changed my posture. Something about me had settled. When she did realize, her expression flickered, surprise mixed with something else I couldn't quite name. Regret, maybe, or recalculation. She smiled. I nodded. We didn't speak. That was enough. I walked away feeling lighter than I had in years. Not because I'd proven anything to her, but because I didn't need to anymore. The version of me she underestimated no longer existed. Not because he'd been replaced, but because he'd grown. People think the best revenge is success. It's not. Success still centers the person you're reacting to. The real freedom comes when they're no longer part of the equation at all. I still live above the bakery. I still wake up early. I still build quietly. The money is there, untouched in the ways that matter. What I use daily is something far more valuable. Choice. I choose who has access to me. I choose where my energy goes. I choose peace over performance. And I choose never to shrink myself to fit into rooms where love is conditional. If there's one thing this chapter taught me, it's this. Never confuse being wanted for being valued. One can disappear the moment circumstances change. The other doesn't flinch when they do. And once you learn the difference, you never unlearn it.